Helena Mendez, 32 years old, a towering figure in the tech empire with a net worth hovering around €3 billion, rolled her custom, €25,000 carbon fiber wheelchair into the Silva mechanical workshop. This small garage, nestled in the gritty industrial periphery of Porto, was the polar opposite of her world. She was there to collect her Porsche Taycan after a sudden maintenance issue. She noticed Diego Silva, 33, beneath a hoisted vehicle. He was the proprietor, a mechanic struggling to keep the small, debt-laden operation afloat, a legacy from his deceased father. He barely cleared €2,000 a month and lived in a cramped apartment directly above the noise and grime. His hands were perpetually blackened by motor oil and grit, and he wore a faded blue jumpsuit that looked several years past its prime. Yet, when he emerged, his eyes were kind, his smile unassuming, and his manner inherently respectful. He didn't treat her status, her chair, or her disability. He treated her a person. When Diego looked at her, his gaze was unwavering. It bypassed the sleek carbon fiber, ignored the aura of billion-euro wealth, and cut right through the 3 years of devastating loss. The accident that had crushed her spinal cord, stole her lower mobility, and annihilated her dreams of movement, of dancing, of running, of a normal, unassisted life. He looked only at Helena, the woman. Then, in a voice of quiet, inexplicable certainty, a conviction that felt profoundly out of place in that greasy shop, he said, "One day you will walk again. I know it. Perhaps not the way everyone expects, but you will walk." Helena's reaction was immediate. A sharp, bitter, cynical laugh. Scorn laced her voice. She had conferred with the world's foremost neurosurgeons, lavished millions on cutting-edge experimental treatments, and consistently received the same sterile, professional diagnosis: impossible. Complete lesion. Permanent. No hope. Yet, the quality of Diego's statement, it held no trace of pity, no saccharine platitude, no empty well-wishing. It was something else entirely, a profound, undeniable weight that made her heart skip a beat, an involuntary moment of terror mixed with a dangerous, unfamiliar warmth. Weeks later, the full truth came to light. Who Diego truly was, the nature of his immense sacrifice a decade prior, why he labored in this obscure shop instead of commanding global attention. She understood exactly what he had given up to try and save a life, and how this very sacrifice concealed the key that could redefine her own existence. When she learned the extent of it, her laughter vanished. She wept, desperately, profoundly, completely. She realized the universe had orchestrated this impossible collision for a specific reason. Hidden beneath the mechanic's oil-stained hands was a man who held a mastery, a near-miraculous knowledge that her billions could never purchase. It was a searing realization that answers to the most desperate prayers often emerge from the most unlikely corners, cloaked in the humblest disguises. It demonstrated, yet again, that life's most profound lessons are delivered through improbable encounters, and that superficial judgments based on appearance or social standing risk blinding us to the miracles that walk among us daily, disguised as ordinary people. True wealth, she understood then, lay not in bank accounts, but in silent human connections, selfless sacrifice, and unconditional love. Helena Mendez, CEO of her own destiny, never handled mundane logistics. Drivers, personal assistants, and high-level staff managed the routine details of her life. But on this specific Thursday afternoon, her primary driver was on leave, her assistant was ill, and she needed the Porsche immediately for a critical late-day meeting with key investors. She drove herself, or rather, controlled the heavily customized vehicle. Its accelerator and brake were entirely integrated into highly specialized manual controls operated by her hands, an adaptation costing €150,000 for the car plus an additional €1,000 in modifications, a negligible sum for the independence and the crucial, fragile illusion of retaining control. The Silva mechanical workshop was far from her usual haunts. A utilitarian, gray building in a gritty industrial zone, marked by a faded sign. Her luxurious service centers were miles away, but the Taycan had developed an urgent electronic fault. Silva's shop was close, and Diego had promised immediate attention. Parking outside, she began the transfer, a practiced, agonizing mechanical ballet from the car seat to the carbon fiber chair, a move that had become second nature after 3 years of daily repetition, 3 years of silent resentment toward every necessary motion. She rolled inside. The narrow doorway scraped her knuckles. The cement floor was rough and uneven. The air was thick and aggressive, saturated with the pungent, honest odor of burnt oil, hot metal, and stale human sweat. A world utterly devoid of the polished elegance and discreet luxury she inhabited. She spotted him instantly. A pair of worn work boots and the lower half of the blue jumpsuit, visible beneath a car hoisted on the lift. She navigated the narrow, cluttered path toward him. "Good afternoon. I'm Helena Mendez, here for the Porsche Taycan." The legs retracted. A mechanic's creeper slid out, revealing Diego. He was perhaps 33, with an open, honest face, warm light brown eyes, a slight stubble and dark, tousled hair. His hands were thoroughly caked in thick, black engine grease. Yet, when he met her eyes, the familiar expression was absent. There was no patronizing softness. Crucially, there was no pity. Diego rose to his full height. He was tall and surprisingly athletic beneath the bulky jumpsuit. "Señora Mendez, your Porsche is prepared. We resolved an anomaly in the electronic braking system. It's been road-tested and works flawlessly." His voice was measured, professional, neither artificially bright nor unnecessarily deferential. "Normal. How much is the charge?" Helena inquired. €450. Replacement part and labor. The price was startlingly fair, perhaps too honest, given that any other high-end garage would have inflated the cost tenfold upon seeing a Taycan. Helena paid electronically. As Diego prepared the receipt, an awkward situation arose. The documents lay on a high counter, inaccessible from her seated position. She strained, using her powerful arms to lift her torso, struggling to stretch far enough. A visible, frustrating, and deeply humiliating physical exertion. Diego did not rush forward in a show of pity, nor did he offer verbal assistance. Instead, he simply smoothly moved the documents to a low, empty workbench nearby. A gesture of quiet, respectful efficiency. Helena stared, genuinely surprised. "Thank you. So few people ever consider those small things." Diego paused, meeting her gaze. "They aren't small things," he replied softly. "They are the world. It's just that most people fail to see it." He held her gaze, looking not at the disability, but into her eyes. "It's been 3 years, hasn't it? Since the accident." Helena stiffened instantly, suspicion rising. "How do you know that?" "By your movement. The explosive strength in your shoulders, the controlled precision of your transfer. I see 3 years of relentless training." "Are you a physician?" she challenged. Diego offered a faint, melancholy smile, the smile of a man burdened by hidden knowledge. "No, but I understand the human body. I understand healing. I know things." Helena scoffed, the cynicism sharp. "Things? You mean miracles? I have been paralyzed for 3 years. I have flown across continents for the best medical minds. They all concur. Complete, permanent lesion, 0 chance." Diego held her gaze for an extended, intensely penetrating moment, as though mentally mapping her neural pathways. Then he delivered the flat, decisive statement. "One day, you will walk again." An oppressive, absurd silence descended. Helena broke it with loud, scornful laughter. "Seriously? A mechanic makes a prognosis that billions of euros in medical expertise have ruled out? That is beyond ridiculous." Diego remained perfectly still, unoffended. He spoke with quiet authority. "I didn't specify the method, nor the timeline. I simply stated that you will walk, and you will." Helena felt a chaotic surge of emotions. Righteous anger, crushing frustration, and a small, terrifying flicker of something she had long extinguished. Hope. "Do not offer me impossible promises. You have no knowledge of my condition." Diego's voice deepened. "I know more than you think. How dare you assume?" Helena started, but Diego cut her off gently. "Your Porsche is secured. Drive safely, Senora Mendez. Come back any time. He turned immediately, retreating beneath the raised car, signaling the conversation was closed. Helena left feeling simultaneously enraged, confused, and profoundly unsettled. That night, sleep evaded her. The words resonated in the sterile silence of her penthouse. One day, you will walk again. It was ludicrous, impossible, perhaps even malicious, yet they held an inescapable gravity. Why did she keep replaying them? 2 weeks passed before Helena manufactured a perfect excuse to return. The Porsche, she claimed, had developed a faint, unusual rattle, likely nothing, but she needed to go back. She didn't analyze the impulse. Perhaps she sought to definitively prove him a fool, or perhaps she secretly yearned for his impossible certainty. She arrived late in the afternoon. Diego, hands deep in the engine of a different vehicle, emerged swiftly. Senora Mendez? A problem with the Porsche? A subtle noise, perhaps. Could be nothing. Diego wiped his hands methodically and took the keys. I'll run a diagnostic test drive. Helena quickly asserted. I'll join you. He looked at her, a question in his eyes. Are you certain? Perfectly. He assisted her transfer into the passenger seat. His hands were exceptionally strong, yet surprisingly gentle and professional. He folded her sophisticated chair and stowed it in the trunk. During the drive, Diego pushed the car hard, listening for the phantom sound. I detect no anomaly, but I will perform a thorough check upon our return. The silence on the way back was heavy with unspoken questions. Helena finally broke it. Why did you say it? That I would walk? Diego paused, his focus fixed on the road. Because it is the truth. That is impossible. Medical science is definitive. Doctors know medicine. I know something else. And what is that? Connection. Body, mind, spirit. Things that conventional science has not yet learned to measure or quantify. That sounds utterly ridiculous. I understand that, but it doesn't make it less true. They pulled back into the garage. While Diego meticulously checked the car, finding no issue, Helena watched the dexterity of his hands, the precise, knowledgeable movements that belied a simple mechanic. Have you always been a mechanic? She asked. Diego froze for a long moment. No. What did you do before? Something else. Very enlightening work, though. He offered that familiar, sorrowful smile. I prefer not to discuss it. Helena, however, was accustomed to mobilizing armies of resources. Information was her currency. That very afternoon, she tasked her most skilled assistant with a deep, uncompromising background check on Diego Silva. The report arrived the following day, and Helena read it with trembling hands, breathless. Diego Silva, born in 1990 in Porto. Prodigious talent. He completed his PhD in neurobiology by the age of 25, specializing in neural regeneration. He worked at the prestigious Neurosciences Institute Research Laboratory at the University of Coimbra, published pioneering papers, and was on track for a brilliant international career. Then, 10 years ago, he vanished. No more publications, no conferences, just silence. The hospital records provided the harrowing explanation. A traffic accident involving a young woman, Diego's fiancée, resulting in a complete spinal cord injury, identical to Helena's own T6 lesion. Diego abandoned his meteoric career, liquidated his assets, and poured millions into experimental treatments, therapies, and rehabilitation for her. Years of relentless, agonizing effort proved fruitless. She succumbed to crushing depression and tragically took her own life. 3 years after her death, Diego suffered a complete breakdown, losing his remaining money, his reputation, and his laboratory. When his father died, he inherited the failing, debt-ridden mechanical shop. He worked tirelessly during the day to service the debt. At night, he devoured cutting-edge research, endlessly searching for the medical solution he had failed to find for the woman he loved. Helena shut the folder, her hands shaking violently. Diego wasn't merely a mechanic. He was a disgraced, brilliant neuroscientist, utterly ruined by love, loss, and profound, futile sacrifices. When he had uttered those impossible words, You will walk again. It hadn't been a kindness. It was the absolute conviction born of a lifetime's obsession, the profound knowledge of a man dedicated to conquering what the world deemed impossible. Helena finally broke. She cried for the first time in 3 years. Not tears of self-pity or simple grief, but tears of devastating recognition. Someone finally truly understood the scope of her fight and the nature of this particular brutal injury. The following day, Helena returned. Diego looked surprised. 3 visits in 2 weeks. The Porsche has serious issues, it seems, he commented dryly. I have a serious problem, she corrected. Diego waited, still and wary. I know who you are, who you were, what you lost, what you sacrificed. A flicker of sharp pain crossed Diego's eyes. You investigated me. Yes, Dr. Silva. Or do you prefer Diego? He turned his back entirely. I am no doctor. That man died years ago. That's self-pitying nonsense. You still read the journals, you still study. I see the lights on late at night above the shop. I know what you are doing. And what is your purpose in this intrusion? Do you want pity for my sad history? I want to hire you. The silence that followed was total. Diego slowly turned back. I beg your pardon? I command 3 billion euros. I can fund the construction of a state-of-the-art laboratory, outfit it with the most advanced equipment on Earth, hire the foremost researchers globally, and fund the entire project for decades. I want you to direct it all. Diego slowly shook his head, a gesture of profound defeat. You don't grasp the scope of it. I tried before. I failed. I watched her die. I cannot. You failed under crippling constraints, limited funding, crushing time pressure, and immense emotional duress. Now you would possess every necessary component. Unlimited time, infinite resources, dedicated staff, and full support. But why me? Why risk this on me? Because I am desperate to walk. And I believe you are the only one who possesses the specific necessary knowledge. Yes, I might spend millions and years only to fail again. But I would rather fail alongside the one person who truly understands this injury, the one person whose life was defined by the attempt, rather than with another detached professional. Diego slumped onto a nearby workbench, burying his face in his hands. I don't know if I have the courage. There is too much residual pain, too much failure, too much history. Helena rolled her chair right up to him. You are afraid, she stated simply. Diego lifted his head, vulnerability stark in his eyes. I am terrified. I am too, every single day. Terrified of this chair defining the rest of my life. Terrified of never feeling my legs again. Terrified of dying without running, dancing, being alone without help. But fear cannot paralyze us. It must be the fuel that propels us forward. What if I fail you too? What if I disappoint your ultimate hope? Then you fail. But we fail together. That is infinitely better than living a diminished life in this garage, knowing you intentionally withheld the genius that could have changed everything. Diego studied her for a long time, weighing the burden against the possibility. Finally, he spoke, setting down his terms. Conditions. No false promises, no guarantees, and absolutely no pressure. I work my own hours at my own rhythm. And if either of us says stop, we stop guilt-free. I also need to keep this shop running part-time. It keeps me anchored, keeps me humble, keeps me real. Agreed. When do we begin? Diego took a profound breath. Monday. But first, I need a comprehensive assessment of your T6 lesion. Full diagnostic scans, blood work. I'll book the best facilities in Porto. No, we do it my way, in my lab. You don't have a lab. Diego returned her small smile, the first genuine light she had seen in his eyes. Not yet. 3 months later, the city of Porto housed a discreet but revolutionary new neural research facility. A gleaming 5-story building, equipped with 50 million euros worth of cutting-edge technology, staffed by a dozen elite researchers recruited from the world's top universities. Diego Silva directed the operation. However, he remained an anomaly among scientific directors. He insisted on splitting his time. half the day supervising the lab, half the day working in the garage. He claimed the balance was essential. The grease on his hands served as a perpetual reminder of humility, and the physical labor kept his analytical mind sharp. Helena understood this was more than just balance. It was ongoing therapy, Diego's way of confronting and healing the deep, unresolved trauma of his past failure. The initial months were a blur of exhaustive testing. Scans, analysis, and mountains of data. Helena's T6 injury was confirmed as a total lesion, zero function, zero sensation, zero movement below the chest. Yet, Diego saw subtle details his colleagues missed. Minute muscle twitches during deep sleep. Faint, erratic neural activity revealed in highly sensitive scans. It's not completely severed. It's asleep, he theorized. The body possesses an innate intelligence. It desires to heal. It simply lacks the instruction manual. He developed a radical, holistic protocol that merged hard science with ancient wisdom. It included targeted electrical stimulation, highly customized stem cell therapies, sophisticated nanoelectrode implants, deep visualization techniques, guided meditation, specific harmonic sound frequencies, and intensely precise nutritional regimens. It sounds like half science, half mysticism, Helena commented once. Why should we divide them? Diego countered. The body doesn't adhere to our labels. It responds to what works, not to what we mandate should work. The months bled into a year. Progress was agonizingly slow, microscopic, often debatable, yet it was undeniably present. The breakthrough arrived in the 6th month. Helena felt it. A weak, phantom tingling in the big toe of her right foot. She immediately dismissed it as imagination, but it returned, a faint electrical echo, and then again. Subsequent deep scans confirmed the impossible. A minimal but definite increase in measurable neural activity crossing the lesion gap. Diego stared at the results in stunned silence, then abruptly walked out of the lab. Helena found him hours later in the dim light of the closed workshop, sitting on the cold cement floor, weeping. These were not tears of sorrow. They were years of guilt and devastating failure being released, tears of purification, of liberation. He was finally witnessing tangible proof that his life's obsession was real, that recovery was possible. Helena did not offer platitudes or comfort. She simply sat near him, sharing the profound, silent moment. She understood that this was not just her potential miracle. It was his long-delayed redemption. By the 2nd year, the momentum accelerated. Tingling evolved into dull sensations. Sensations sharpened into microscopic muscle twitches. Twitches coalesced into visible, albeit infinitesimal, movements. There were no dramatic, overnight miracles, but the immovable mountain was yielding, grain by grain. Concurrently, the dynamic between Helena and Diego transformed. It transcended the clinical boundaries of researcher and subject, evolving into an intense partnership, then a deep friendship, and ultimately something profound. They spent countless hours together, in the sterile glow of the lab, amidst the comforting grime of the garage, or moving side by side, Diego walking, Helena rolling, through the city streets. They spoke of everything. Their families, their deepest fears, their crushing pasts. Diego shared the vivid memories of his late fiancée. Her laughter, her passion, the consuming guilt of her loss, and his own near-fatal collapse. Helena recounted the accident, the loss of control, the immediate paralyzing shock of waking up fundamentally changed, stripped of her identity. They shared vulnerability and pain, but also a new, grounded hope. A hope built not on instant magic, but on relentless work, mutual connection, and absolute perseverance. Slowly, inevitably, something extraordinary blossomed. Love. It was not the love born of pity or mere gratitude, but a genuine, deep affection rooted in profound respect, complete understanding, and total acceptance of each other's brokenness. Yet, the actual words remained unspoken. The situation felt too complicated, the risk too immense, the moment too imperfect. 3 years into the protocol, the decisive day arrived. Helena was in the lab for an intensive session, surrounded by Diego and the entire research team. Today, we attempt the integration, Diego announced. The robotic exoskeleton is connected directly to your custom neural implants. It will read your raw motor intention, amplify the signals, and assist the resulting movement. Exoskeletons are notoriously clunky and unresponsive, Helena noted skeptically. This one is different. It uses your actual residual neural pathways. You move it, the machine merely provides the necessary power boost. The preparation consumed hours. Detailed calibrations, system checks, and neural synchronization. Finally, supported by the metallic framework, Helena was lifted. She stood, legs straight, body upright, for the first time in over 3 years, viewing the world from a height and perspective she had long erased from memory. Tears streamed down her face instantly. Diego was right beside her, his breath held. Ready to try one step? Helena's entire body shook with fear and anticipation. I'm terrified. I know, but I'm right here. I will catch you if you fall. Helena closed her eyes, concentrating all her will on the right side of her body. She visualized the command right leg forward. It happened slowly, mechanically, awkwardly assisted, but the leg moved. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. A single, profound step. The room erupted in applause and emotional shouts, but Helena heard none of it. Her world narrowed to Diego. His eyes were shining, his smile trembling, filled with a pure, overwhelming pride and love. Helena took the second step, then the third and the fourth. 5 steps in total before the effort consumed her energy entirely. 5 steps. After 3 years of total paralysis, those 5 steps were a declaration of war against the impossible. They gently lowered her back into the chair, where she shook and sobbed uncontrollably. Diego knelt before her. You walked, Helena. I told you. You walked. Thank you. Oh God. Thank you. No. Thank you, he insisted. You held the belief. You believed in me when I had completely lost faith in my own ability to heal anyone. Later that night, long after the team had gone, Diego and Helena remained in the dark laboratory, quietly watching the sprawling lights of the city below. I love you, Helena whispered. The words escaped, unplanned, raw and undeniable. Diego turned, surprised at first. Then his features softened into an expression of immense relief. I have been fighting this knowledge for 2 years, he admitted. But I love you too. It feels wrong, doesn't it? The doctor and the patient. I am not a doctor, Helena. Not professionally. I am just a man deeply in love with a woman. A woman who is fierce, courageous, and utterly magnificent. I am confined to a wheelchair. You are everything, and the chair is only a temporary frame. They kissed. A slow, tender, perfect connection. It was their first kiss, but they both knew it was the last first of anything, because this moment marked the inevitable, beautiful beginning of their shared future. The Mendes Silva Laboratory quickly became a global success, producing groundbreaking publications, earning international recognition, and treating other previously hopeless patients. And Helena was walking, not flawlessly, and she relied on specialized canes and daily therapy sessions, but she was mobile. That evening, however, she was doing something far grander. She was dancing. They were the guests of honor at a hospital charity gala aimed at raising funds for spinal research. As the orchestra began a slow, classic waltz, Diego extended his hand. May I have this dance? Helena laughed, a sound full of genuine, unrestrained joy. I might still fall. I will always hold you steady. They stepped onto the dance floor. Diego supported her weight with his arm around her waist, acting as her anchor. Helena moved slowly, deliberately, concentrating intensely on the rhythm of the music guiding her careful steps. It wasn't the effortless dancing of her past, but for Helena, it was transcendence. 3 years earlier, she had laughed scornfully at Diego's impossible prophecy. She had laughed out of pain, cynicism, and a fundamental disbelief in miracles. Now she wept because she believed utterly. The miracle was real. An unassuming man in a greasy garage had looked beyond her devastating injury, past the limits of established science, through her hopelessness, and past the carbon fiber of her chair. He saw only her, Helena, and decided that was sufficient reason to dedicate his life to achieving the impossible. "I remember the day you told me I would walk," Helena murmured. "And you laughed." Diego reminded her gently. "I was foolish and cynical. I didn't understand that you spoke from deep knowledge, from immense pain, from lost love, and from an absolute, defining obsession to save. I didn't know your past, but something small inside me believed you, even while I laughed. A dangerous whisper told me, maybe this man is different." "It was destiny," Diego said, pulling her close. "Do you believe in destiny, now?" "I believe the right people find each other at the precise moment they are needed. I believe I required your faith as much as you required my knowledge. And together we made the impossible happen. I love you so much it physically hurts." "That's a good pain," Helena whispered back, leaning into him. "Because pain means I'm alive, it means I can feel, and it means that everything we went through mattered." The waltz ended. They stopped, holding each other in the center of the cheering room, the world dissolving around them. Months later, they married. The ceremony was small, held within the Neural Research Laboratory, the sacred space where science had met faith, where loss had found redemption, and where the impossible had become routine. Helena walked down the improvised aisle slowly, deliberately, her face radiant with joyous tears. Diego waited, his hand outstretched, ready to catch her, as he had promised he always would. Their vows were simple, to love, to support, to believe always. And when she said, "I do," Helena was not seated. She was standing proudly on her own magnificent, trembling legs. A year later, their child arrived. A carefully monitored pregnancy followed, fraught with intense anxieties, yet Helena's body proved far more resilient than medical teams had dared to anticipate. When their son finally arrived, a healthy, vigorous embodiment of their struggle, they named him Lucas. It was a deceptively simple, ancient name that meant bringer of light. And that, truly, was what they had become. A living testament, bringing light to the deepest darkness, hope to the edge of despair, and manifesting possibility where only impossibility had reigned before. This story was never intended to be about the simple binary of laughter or tears. It was a profound exploration of the arduous journey navigating the territory between the two extremes. It chronicled how impossible words, a prophecy spoken by a humble, grease-stained man within the cluttered confines of a dirty auto shop, blossomed into undeniable truth, transforming into concrete reality, and ultimately, sustaining life itself. Whenever the press or curious acquaintances would inevitably ask how Helena had achieved the medical feat of walking again, she would always offer the same unwavering answer. She dismissed the easy explanations with a gentle, firm resolve. It wasn't the sophisticated science, it wasn't the endless stream of money, nor was it the cutting-edge technology. It was one man who held firm to his belief when I had utterly lost mine. It was a love so enduring, so powerful, that it proved stronger than any physical paralysis. It was a miracle, beautifully disguised and hidden within the oil-stained, grimy hands of a mechanic who was, in his broken heart, a neuroscientist desperately seeking his own redemption. And so concludes the powerful narrative of the mechanic who dared to promise the impossible, and the cold, multimillionaire woman who initially laughed at him, later wept for him, and finally danced with him. Because sometimes, the most profound miracles do not arrive as blinding flashes of light or sudden, instantaneous cures. They arrive slowly, painstakingly, grain by dedicated grain, step by necessary step, sustained entirely by the person who possesses the rare vision to see far beyond the debilitating limitations that everyone else accepts as fixed. This quiet, relentless perseverance, this enduring belief in the unseen potential, is the most profound and potent magic known to the universe. If this story has resonated with you, if it has ignited a flicker of hope that the impossible is simply a word awaiting redefinition, please leave a signal to let us know that you remained with us until this final moment. And if you feel moved to support the creation of future stories that champion rigorous science, celebrate the boundless resilience of love, and honor the power of perseverance above all, you will find the Super Thanks button readily available right below this text. Your support genuinely means the world to those of us committed to sharing these tales of hidden miracles found in the most unassuming of places.